the most gruesome memento of all, a mummy. Not the wrapped in cloth kind, but a human, female body shriveled to a husk. She wore a tie-dyed sundress, lots of beaded necklaces, and a headband over long black hair. The skin of her face was thin and leathery over her skull, and her eyes were glassy white slits, as if the real eyes had been replaced by marbles. She'd been dead a long, long time ago. Looking at her Looking at her sent chills up my back, and that was before she sat up on her stool and opened her mouth. A green mist poured from the mummy's mouth, coiling over the floor in thick tendrils hissing like 20,000 snakes. I stumbled over myself trying to get the trapdoor, but it slammed shut. Inside my head, I heard a voice slithering into one ear and coiling around my brain. I am the spirit of Delphi, speaker of the prophecies of Phoebus Apollo, slayer of the mighty Python. Approach, seeker, and ask. I wanted to say, no thanks, wrong door, just looking for the bathroom, but I forced myself to take a deep breath. The mummy wasn't alive. She was some kind of gruesome receptacle for something else. The power that was now swirling around me in the green mist. But its presence didn't feel evil, like my demonic math teacher, Mrs. Dodds, or the Minotaur. It felt more like the three fates I'd seen kneading the yarn outside the highway food stand. Ancient, powerful, and definitely not human. But not particularly interested in killing me either. I got up the courage to ask, what is my destiny? The mist swirled more thickly, collecting right in front of me and around the table, with the pickled monster part jars. Suddenly, there were 4 men sitting around the table playing cards. Their faces became clearer. It was Smelly Gabe and his buddies. My fists clenched. I thought I knew this poker party couldn't be real. It was an illusion made out of mist. Gabe turned toward me and spoke in a rasping voice of the oracle. You shall go west and face the god who has turned. His buddy on the right looked up and said in the same voice, you shall find what was stolen and see it safely returned. The guy on the left threw in 2 poker chips and then said, you shall be betrayed by one who calls you a friend. Finally, Eddie, our building super, delivered the worst line of all. And you shall fail to save what matters the most in the end. The figures began to dissolve. At first, I was too stunned to say anything, but as the mist retreated, coiling into a huge green serpent and slithering back into the mouth of the mummy, I cried, wait! What do you mean? What friend? What will I fail to save? The tail of the mist of the snake disappeared into the mummy's mouth. She reclined back against the wall, her mouth closed tight, as if it hadn't been opened in 100 years. The attic was silent again, abandoned, nothing but a room full of memories. I got the feeling that I could stand here until I had cobwebs too, and I wouldn't learn anything else. My audience with the oracle was over. Well, Chiron asked me. I slumped into a chair at the pinnacle table. She said I would retrieve what was stolen. Grover sat forward, chewing excitedly on the remains of a Diet Coke can. That's great! What did the oracle say exactly? Chiron pressed. This is important. My ears were still tingling from the reptilian voice. She said I would go west and face a god who has turned. I would retrieve what was stolen and safely returned. I knew it, Grover said. Chiron didn't look satisfied. Anything else? I didn't want to tell him. What friend would betray me? I didn't have that many. And the last line, I would fail to say what mattered the most. What kind of oracle would send me on a quest and tell me, oh, by the way, you'll fail? How could I confess that? No, I said, that's about it. He studied my face. Very well, Percy, but know this. The oracle's words often have double meanings. Don't dwell on them too much. The truth is not always clear until events come to pass. I got the feeling he knew I was holding back something bad and he was trying to make me feel better. Okay, I said, anxious to change the topic. So where do I go? Who's this god in the west? Ah, think, Percy, Chiron said. If Zeus and Poseidon weakened each other in war, who stands to gain? Somebody else who wanted to take over? I guessed. Yes, quite. Someone who harbors a grudge, who, who has been unhappy with his lot since the world was divided eons ago, whose kingdom would grow powerful with the deaths of millions. Someone who hates his brothers for forcing him into an oath to have no more children, an oath that both of them have now broken. I thought about my dreams, the evil voice that had spoken from under the grounds. Hades. Chiron nodded. The Lord of the Dead is the only possibility. A scrap of aluminum dribbled out of Grover's mouth. Whoa, wait. What? A fury came after Percy, Chiron reminded him. She watched the young man until she was sure of his identity and then tried to kill him. Furies obey only one lord, Hades. Yes, but Hades hates all heroes, Grover protested, especially if he has found out Percy is a son of Poseidon. A hellhound got into the forest, Chiron continued. Those can only be summoned from the fields of the punishment, and it had to be summoned by someone within the camp. Hades must have a spy here. He must suspect Poseidon will try to use Percy to clear his name. Hades would very much like to kill his young half-blood before he can take on the quest. Great, I muttered. That's two major gods who want to kill me. But a quest too? Grover swallowed. I mean, couldn't the Master Bolt be someplace like Maine? Maine's very nice this time of the year. Hades sent a minion to steal the Master Bolt, Chiron insisted. He hid it in the underworld, knowing full well that Zeus would blame Poseidon. I don't pretend to understand the Lord of the Dead's motives perfectly, or why he chose this time to start a war. But one thing is certain. Percy must go to the underworld, find the Master Bolt, and reveal the truth. A strange fire burned in my stomach. The weirdest thing was, it wasn't fear. It was anticipation, the desire for revenge. Hades tried to kill me 3 times so far, with the Fury, the Minotaur, and the Hellhound. It was his fault my mother had disappeared in a flash of light. Now, he was trying to frame me and my dad for a theft we hadn't committed. I was ready to take him on. Besides, if my mother was in the underworld. Whoa, boy, said the small part of my brain that was still saying, you're a kid. Hades is a god. Grover was trembling. He started eating pinnacle cards like potato chips. The poor guy needed to complete a quest with me so he could get his searcher's license, whatever that was. But how could I ask him to do this quest, especially when the oracle said I was destined to fail? This was suicide. Look, if we know it's Hades, I told Chiron, why can't we just tell the other gods? Zeus or Poseidon could go down to the underworld and bust some heads. Suspecting and knowing are not the same, Chiron said. Besides, if the other gods suspect Hades, and I imagine Poseidon does, they couldn't retrieve the bolt themselves. Gods cannot cross each other's territories except by invitation. This is another ancient rule. Heroes, on the other hand, have certain privileges. They can go anywhere, challenge anyone, as long as they're bold enough and strong enough to do it. No god can be held responsible for a hero's actions. Why do you think the gods always operate through humans? You're saying I'm being used? I'm saying it's no accident Poseidon has claimed you now. It is a very risky gamble, but he's in a desperate situation. He needs you. My dad needs me. Emotions roll inside of me like bits of glass in a kaleidoscope. I didn't know whether to feel resentful, or grateful, or happy or angry. Poseidon had ignored me for 12 years. Now, suddenly he needs me? I looked at Chiron. You've known I was Poseidon's son all along. Haven't you? I've had my suspicions. As I said, I've spoken to the oracle too. I got the feeling there was a lot he wasn't telling me about his prophecy, but I decided I couldn't worry about that right now. After all, I was holding back information too. And that's all we have time for. See you on Thursday.